He looked at me and he said, transactions will make you a living, relationships will make you a fortune. And I looked him in the eyes and I said, I want relationships.
Welcome back to another episode of Built to Finish. I'm super excited to be talking with today's guest. He is proof that resilience isn't taught, it's lived. Told by his own mother that he would never succeed, he rose to become a top 1% mortgage professional in America by the age of 27. Then he built a global brand from scratch. But success didn't come without scars. He survived 3 financial collapses, lost his wife of 25 years to cancer, nearly lost his 2 sons to addiction, and then faced cancer himself. He beat it, of course. Today, his family is restored, his sons are sober, and as a founder of Fuel, his mission is simple: help people win, no matter what they've been through. Todd Duncan, welcome to the show.
Stephen, great to be with you. So happy that we have this connection and so happy that we get to just have a combo about, life, liberty, and happiness and all that comes along with that. I like being the poster child of all those things that I got through. And it just proves that, if you grow through stuff instead of just go through stuff, you can win almost every time.
I love it. Grow through stuff instead of go through stuff. I
Right.
love that phrase. And one thing I did forget to mention, that you're also a 3 times New York Times bestselling author, and you've published over 17 books?
17 books.
Focused on trust-based selling, time management, and client relationships, right?
And really personal growth. My first book was called The Power to Be Your Best, and it was how to live the life of your dreams. And so I always like the personal side. In fact, a book coming out probably in 3 or 4 months is my brand new book called Fall in Love with Your Life. And it's re-edit your past, reimagine your future, and live the life you've always dreamed of. And so, and the books are in 56 languages. I feel blessed. It was never about writing that many books. I just wanted to write one. And then once one became a bestseller, then I wrote another one and had a couple of books that didn't work out the right way and learned some lessons there. To have 3 is a blessing. Yeah. So the more people I can reach and help win, that's what wakes me up every morning.
You're definitely reaching a lot of people. High trust selling has been around, for over 20 years at this point?
Yeah. Yeah. It was written in 2002 and released in 2003.
That's incredible. Congratulations on the success of that, and everybody that you've impacted, through that work. Why do you think it's alive and well today in terms of like the sales framework that you pitch? Most of just become a fad and pass, and yours is continuing to withstand the test of time. Why do you think that is?
I think there's a couple things that happen. Number one is my gift at the age of 23 from my mentor was he made me answer a question. I did not know what was coming, but he said, before I mentor you, you have to decide what's more important to you, transactions or relationships. And I was naive enough right out of school. I did not have any money. I had like a 90-day draw credit card, but my father told me never use a credit card unless you can pay it off in full in 30 days. And so I always kind of had that, but I was naive enough and lucky enough that I said, well, what's the difference? And he looked at me and he said, transactions will make you a living, relationships will make you a fortune. And I looked him in the eyes and I said, I want relationships. And what I learned is it wasn't because relationships would make me wealthy. It was because it was the easiest way to do business. And that if you had high trust relationships, where people didn't doubt you and didn't object to you. And even if you could go from being a lead in business to being a referral in business, all the profitability metrics, the speed and velocity with which you get clientele, the repeat and referral universe, all those things open up to you. And so why high trust selling is still around is because it's a masterclass in relationship building. It is. And it's everything from the relationship you have with yourself when you look in the mirror, the relationship you have with the people closest to you, maybe a spouse, a partner, kids, parents, whatever, your social complexity. And is that simplified or is that just like confusing? And every time there's a conversation with somebody that could be not only a client, a loyal client, but then could be a force in the world for your business, there's zero downside. I think people look for, if there's such, first of all, people say, what's the secret to success? And the answer is there's no secret. It requires a vision and resilience and capital. It's pretty straightforward. And then the other piece of business is that if you have a framework, instead of winging it, and if you know what to do, you know how to manage objections, and you know how to create lift and set appointments, then that's why it works today. And what I know for sure is I'm a practitioner of this very same thing. And I'll give you one example and then we can get on. My wife and I landed in Sydney, Australia, June 2nd of last year, and we had 32 appointments that were set for us the minute we landed, and I did not set one of those appointments.
Wow.
Two people in Australia that I have a deep relationship with reached out and said, my good friend Todd and his wife are coming to Australia. They've got a new tech company they want to introduce to you. I would suggest you take a 45-minute meeting with them. And we walked out of that country 30 days later with 7 or 8 pretty significant follow-ups, some of which might include companies like Qantas Airlines.
Nice.
So yeah, so it's beautiful to meet people and not grind it out, not buy leads lists and not try to, be in the concession business, be in the value business, right? And relationships
Sure.
love value.
No, that's great. What we're definitely going to get into the company that you just mentioned in a bit, but a couple of other questions first.
Sure. Yeah.
So you've been around a lot and you've actually influenced a lot of elite performers. What do you think they understand about relationships that average salespeople just miss?
I think that they understand that the deeper you go, the longer the relationship will last. And I don't think most salespeople operate at more of a shallow level, and I don't think they understand. You could still build a business, market share driven. You could get a few transactions from a whole bunch of millions of people, and your business model would probably work. You can also get a lot of business from fewer clients. So when I was 23, I invented this concept in my mind that I'm more interested in client share than I am market share. Client share is like, I have a client, if they have a repeat sales cycle of 100 units in a year, I want all 100. And I don't want 100 that give me one. I want one that gives me 100. And I look at Andrew Carnegie, who today would be worth trillions of dollars. And he said, one of the keys to life in business is to put all of your eggs in one basket and watch the basket. That's what most salespeople are not willing to do. They operate from fear. Why put all my eggs in one basket? What if an egg drops out? Well, okay, if you don't have another egg to add, which would be prospecting and building your funnel, then great. But if you do have an egg to add because you're doing such a good job with the few eggs that are there that your reputation is one of demand pull, then shoot, referrals are easy. So I think that's why they don't go deep enough, and they're more transactionally focused. They're more like, get a deal and that's it, on to the next deal. If you want your clients for life, you have to talk to them during their life, and you need to build a relationship with them. And if you have 1,000 clients, you have 1,000 salespeople if you do it right.
Agreed. Do you think building trust and having these deep relationships is something that can be taught, or is it one of these things that you're either born with or you're not?
You can definitely learn it. I'll give you an example. So I wrote a white paper called Talk Less, Sell More. And one of the observations was we started measuring conversion, and we took salespeople that were using 100 words in a conversation and what their conversion rate was. And then we showed them how to make their conversation more efficient so that they didn't have to ask as many questions, but each of the questions were deeper conversations. And over the course of going from 100 words all the way down to 25 words, we took conversion from 17% to 73%. And so what I think people need to understand is the deeper you go, the more likely people are to say yes and stay with you. So trust can definitely be taught. If I take the spotlight off of me and stop thinking about getting a deal and I put it on you and I start asking you this question, like, as a business provider and a buyer of these services, what are the top 3 business challenges you're facing in the next 12 months, and how can I help you win?
Mhm.
That question alone fosters trust, because most people want to sell you whatever they have, the product, the service, and they have their features and they have their benefits, and they talk, and they don't know how to listen. Listening actively is not a gem because it says listen actively. It's like, if you understand active listening, the client will tell you everything they need for you to act on, only if you go deep enough in asking the right kinds of questions. The other problem is it doesn't take more questions. It takes fewer of the right questions that have deeper conversation. And I think that's the problem with most people, that they just, for whatever reason, they have operate like a vendor instead of a partner.
It's
Yeah.
amazing that there's so much material and there's so much knowledge out there on this topic. And at the end of the day, many sales professionals still don't utilize those tactics.
We saw somebody, let's see, they started January 17th and we went for 2 months. They rolled out Talk Less, Sell More to 500 salespeople and orders went up 31% in 60 days. Just teaching their people, shut up, ask the right kind of question, and really, really listen, right? So, and by the way, the better anybody gets at building trust, the better business will get for them. It's that simple because trust is the number one currency. And if people, that's why referrals are so important because I get shopped less. The sales conversation is immediately emotional instead of economics. And we're able to connect on things because a third party like Stephen Pivnik, that dude is amazing. I'm so happy he connected us. Well, me too, man. I love that guy. And how did you meet Stephen? Well, how did you meet Stephen? And, so a half hour later, we're talking about all these great things. And then, by the way, he wanted me to talk to you about this today. And, so people spend way too much time trying to make a deal instead of letting the deal become the byproduct of a relationship.
That's a great observation. In high trust selling, you call it an operating system. What are some of the non-negotiables of that system?
So non-negotiable number one is non-negotiables are part of time, productivity, and efficiency. What are the non-negotiables that a salesperson would understand they have to do come hell or high water every single day? Far too many people spend far too much time on far too many of the things that don't create sales. And so it's called the law of the hourglass. And the law of the hourglass says you have to make your moves before time runs out. And that's a daily deal, right? So the non-negotiable there. Another non-negotiable is the law of the bullseye. The law of the bullseye says if you don't aim for the right prospects, you'll do business with any prospect. Most of the pain that people get in business is when they're doing business with people they don't like. And that gets back to bullseye thinking. Bullseye is like if I get 10 orders from one client because I hit the bullseye, that is going to be far more efficient than getting one order from 10 clients. Right. And all things being the same, right? So that's a non-negotiable. Be more to less, all right? And then the next non-negotiable is the law of courtship, which says for a relationship to be right on the outside, it has to be right on the inside. If you and I don't share common values, I believe in efficiency and you love being a train wreck, we're never going to get along together. If I believe in integrity and you're a crook, we're never going to get along together. If I believe in not being available, but being worth waiting for, and you want to be on demand, I'd rather be in demand than on demand. That's a non-negotiable. Incubation, the law of incubation, the most profitable relationships mature over time. I have one relationship in Australia that's in its 32nd year. And in 32 years, all I have done besides being part of this guy's entrepreneurship and building one of the biggest brands that he sold for $1 billion in Australia, which only has, by the way, 28 million people in it. If you sell a brand in Australia for $1 billion, you're doing something right. Anyway, as recently as last year, going to Australia for my 32nd time, there is a ancestry.com thread that runs through John Simon in 1996 and a guy I'm talking to today because of John Simon 32 years later. So that law of incubation, people don't, I think, Stephen, I scratched my head on this. We did a survey with 37,000 commissioned salespeople, and only 5% of them contact their client after sale once a year and just build a relationship with them. It is a travesty. And they are one and done, on to the next, one and done, on to the next. Yeah. I think when I was done doing loans, 12 years, almost 6,000 loans, 5,000 of them came direct referral, 100% direct referral. Conversion rate was 75%, and then closing rate was 95%. That's how relationships work. So it's that to me is an absolute non-negotiable. And then the last law, the law of the encore, if you screw that up, you got to go find a new client. If you drop the ball and mess up a deal, first of all, get really good at recovering a client that's pissed off. And if you can get them back, they could become a very, very good client for you. But don't run from the client when there's a problem. Run to the client, and put your arms around them and say, I'm sorry, man, that is not how this was supposed to go. I would say all 14 laws are non-negotiable, but those are some of the highlights. because it's an operating system, the first law has to do with my deep internal, like, where do I want to be? Nothing on the outside, nothing about planning the day or doing this or doing that. Where do I want to be? And the bigger my dreams, then the second law is the law of the summit. You'll love this as a climber, right? The law of the summit says that the success you achieve is based on the perception you have. And it's like climbing the summit is like, it's hard, but it's also about learning. It's about failing. And it's about, like, if you have a dream, it's not going to be easy compared to not having a dream, and not having a dream is going to be hard too. But man, if I see failure as failure, you know this. I mean, how many steps climbing Everest weren't exactly the right step? And, what did you learn from everything? And failure is a very good thing, because it's like warm and cold, or fast and slow, and failure and success. They're part of the same ecosystem. And so people have to love failure, and then they have to invest in their business, and then they have to have a business plan, and then they have to have a time management plan, and then they have to have a client acquisition plan, and then they have to have a client retention plan. That's the system. I just laid it out for you in 10 seconds.
Hey everyone, just a quick break from the show to review the top 3 things that I talk to many founders about that are looking to maximize the valuation during an exit. 1, are your books in order? 2, is there enough growth left in the business for the acquirer? And number 3, what is your sizzle? What is that special sauce that's going to take many years for a competitor to recreate? If you have those 3, you're definitely going to be maximizing your valuation upon exit. Now back to the show. There you go, the masterclass in fantastic. So the perfect segue in terms of delivery and basically being there by the side of your client if something is going wrong. I love the title of your customer service book, The $6,000 Egg, the 10 Golden Rules for Customer Service. That's a super catchy title. I'm sure that book did well.
Did really well.
What are like the top 2 or 3 golden rules for customer?
Well, okay, yeah. So one of the golden rules is make your thank yous last forever. And I'll give you a quick example. So Harvey Mackay is an author, and I kind of grew up reading some of his books, and we did a podcast together. Not a podcast. We did back then it was web something, Cisco web meet or whatever. But we had 400 real estate agents on, and I was interviewing Harvey, and it was a great interview. The next morning I hear my doorbell ring, and it's a FedEx delivery from Harvey Mackay the next morning with a 6-page thank you letter. And here's what's interesting, Stephen. The thank you letter said thank you 625 times. And then at the very end, it was just customized. Like, yesterday was huge. The interview was spot on, blah, 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 blah. And so then I started sharing that in seminars. And then when we started writing the book, we said, let's put that in as a chapter. So I put Make Your Thank You Gifts Last Forever in, and then I send Harvey 12 of the books and personalize one of them and send them to Harvey. And he calls my assistant and says, tell Todd I need to speak to him at 1:00 today. This is a Friday. So I call Harvey Mackay back, and he goes, this is a really, really, really great book. And thank you for saying thank you on how I said thank you to you in the book. And he goes, I'm going to give you another thank you. Tomorrow, I've done an 825-word summary of the $6,000 egg. It's going to be in the top 100 newspapers in America in my editorial comment. And I go, what? And he goes, yeah, top 100. Readership is only about 70 million. So I hope that's a way for me to say thank you. And so you look at that and you go, it's like, wow. Wow, 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 wow. And then I'll give you another one. One of the chapters of the book features awareness. It's just awareness. And the example I tell is about the Montage Resort. Awareness is my wife and I are there for her birthday, and we're at one of the restaurants. And so we're having a great dinner together and everything. And then when the bill comes, there's this like communication that somehow happens behind the scenes, and we get the bill. And simultaneously, the awareness was, I wonder if the valet team knows that it's that it's Deb Duncan's birthday. And so they call up from the restaurant to the valet team. We get up to get our car. We open the car door. Deb gets in, and there's 2 bottles of a split of Veuve Clicquot champagne.
Nice.
On the dashboard is a blue hat for me and a pink hat for her. And in the middle of the dashboard is a birthday card written by the valet team, signed by the valet team. And I took a picture of that, and I've shared that with over 1 million people in seminars as like awareness. Like, I wonder if the valet team knows that it's Deb Duncan's birthday. So these are just, and it's fun. But here's the interesting thing. When I wrote a blog about this experience, this is like the stupidity of business, right? The stupidity of business is somebody comes up because you've had a bad experience. She's a manager of a restaurant brand, and she offers to pay $79 cover your bill for your lack of whatever enjoyment and enthusiasm. And all she really had to do was have one of her staff walk 100 feet out the front door to a store and buy an egg and put it on our burger. So she's using company that would that one egg, even it was like, I don't know, 19 cents. It was this kind of thinking. So I wrote a blog, and the blog had 400,000 shares in 45 days. To which I got a request from a publisher, would you like to write a book called The $6,000 Egg? To which I said, I'm going to give the guy that's the CEO of the food group one more chance because he may not want me to write this book. I reached out to him, no reply, no reply. And this is Hillstone Food Group. It's a national food group, right? So anyway, I write the book and it just takes off. It just goes sky high. And so I send him an autographed copy of the book, jokingly say, if you'd like me to train your team on customer service, I'm happy to do it. I got an email back from his assistant, no thanks. But it's really interesting. We have an opportunity today in high trust to bring experiences alive. And that's all you have. That's all you have to do.
I couldn't agree more. And
Yeah.
I have a similar story from the montage, which is my wife and I stayed there once and we had a phenomenal experience. But the person that got me onto that hotel chain told me that he was having dinner with his wife. It was their anniversary as well. And the waiter overheard them toasting each other to their anniversary. When they came back up to their room, the tub was filled with rose petals and the entire team had this like romantic, ambiance about it just because a waiter overheard the word anniversary.
See, awareness. It's such a powerful, I have a crystal ball on one of my clients' desks because one time in a conversation when I asked her how she's doing, she goes, it's good and it's bad. And I just wish I had a crystal ball. Awareness. So I went out and bought an 8-inch crystal ball on a sterling silver stand and had it sent up to her, and make your thank you last forever. So now every time she looks at the crystal ball, she thinks of, my brand and what we do for people, especially CEOs. And it's just a side note. I had no idea when I came up with that chapter that people would be sending me like Louboutin shoes and polo shorts and, all these kinds of things I'm getting as thank yous. Because now every time I put something on, I think of the client that sent it to me. It's just, so great.
Excellent. Excellent. So before we get into your new company, which I can't wait for you to share information about, 5 rapid fire questions. This is a new section which everybody loves.
Oh, great. Okay.
Biggest trust killer.
Biggest what?
Biggest trust killer.
Overpromising and underdelivering.
One habit every top producer has.
Mindset and treating the mind as sacred before any business takes place.
Most overrated sales KPI.
Calls.
Best way to recover lost trust.
Apologize, commit, and deliver an incentive for a future opportunity to regain trust.
Okay. One book besides 18 of yours and of course mine, every salesperson should read.
Well, though, I'm going to go way back because the book that changed my life was called Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. It's probably 70 years old. It was 30 years old, 40 years old when I read it, but it's all about like attitude. And it's just like the optimistic impact on people. They outperform almost every metric you can possibly imagine when they think positively instead of negatively. And it sounds simple, but yeah.
I love it. Great recommendation. All right. So without any further ado, you've taken all of your knowledge and you've combined it with the knowledge of, many other people that are out there on a mission to improve lives and improve productivity, and have created a new technology company. So why don't you introduce it?
Yeah, yeah. So I think one of the great, and if you had asked a sixth question, what's one great skill all salespeople have? I would say curiosity, and curiosity in moments that don't feel like I should be curious. And so
Mhm.
what ended up happening, just as a backdrop, real quickly, is I've always done an event called the Sales Mastery Event. Put probably over 30 years, 150,000 through this event. It's always live, and I would always bring in like 20 speakers, right? And so they'd be in stage, they'd fly in, they'd do their deal, and we'd have a 3.5 day just knowledge, extravaganza. And when COVID hit, I had zero confidence that we'd be able to do that event. So COVID's around in February, big and announced to the world, and our event is in October. And within about 2 weeks, I just said to my team, I said, there's no guarantee anybody's going to show up. And so we're going to live stream the event. So I flew people just like I always would, but instead of flying them to a ballroom, I flew them to a studio. And we did the same thing, but we live streamed. We ended up going to all our clients. So we had a pricing level, write us a check for 25 grand, and your whole company can come and you can share the link with any of your clients. It was absolutely brilliant because I wanted to go, if we're going to go big and we're going to live stream, let's see how big we can get. Second day of the event, Stephen, my chief technology officer, came up to me and he said, you need to sit down. And I go, why? And he goes, because you're not going to believe how many people are connected to the event. And I go, well, how many? And he goes, well, I'll just cut to the chase right now. We're knocking on the door, 45,000 devices connected to the event. But he said, more important than that, we're in 13 countries. And all of a sudden I realized that there's no global boundary. I'm doing the same thing. I've got 25 instructors I bring in. We can get everywhere in the world. Why don't we just start a new company? And so I had a friend of mine that introduced me to my partner, Alex Kadishan, and Alex has a tech background. And he told me something interesting. He goes, tell me your idea and I'll tell you within 15 minutes if I think it'll work. And I said, my idea is that we need to equip people all over the world to have access to learning to help them live their best life and win each and every day. And I said, my model's always been fly those people in. Now we can just fly them into our studio instead of our stage. We can record all this content. We invented micro learning in what's called the performance as a service model. So people can take little nuggets. There's courses, there's lessons as short as 1 minute long. So you can take it in and really drink in from it. And then we started with that kind of launch, and it was a disaster at the start. I mean, just a disaster. It was like we had alpha tests and beta tests and nobody liked it. And salespeople didn't like putting in what they were doing with their time and being monitored and this and that. And so 2 years ago, we finally said, let's build a learning model that's as easy to use as Netflix. And let's apply a Peloton model so that everything people learn, they get to get evaluated on and become their best version of themselves and set personal records. And today, fast forward, we have also now put in a component where every one of those teachers have their own closed AI system that we built that as well. And so right now there's about 700,000 pieces of data in my AI, just in mine. And so now what can happen is people can come in and they can run an idea by me, or they can practice a role play with me, or they can. It's the most fascinating thing I've ever seen. And having owned a coaching company with human bodies, there's nothing wrong with that. But my question is, like, every 2 weeks in between a live coaching session and the world, what are you doing to stay focused, sharp as a needle, right? And so now we have the fastest growing learning company with AI technology that is like, I'm scratching my head because my whole goal was, when the speech is over, can I give somebody something that keeps the learning alive until the next time they see me? And that's what we've done with Fuel. The other thing that's cool, and then I'll let you come back, we're in 77 countries right now, and every one of our GPT avatars speaks every language fluently.
Wow.
Every language on of the top 100 languages, the top 100, they speak them fluently.
So if me as an instructor, if I don't speak a word of Spanish, somebody in Mexico can interact with my avatar and my knowledge will come out in Spanish.
100%. And it will come out not only orally, but it will come out in textuality as well. Like, here's a weird thing. I'm 6'5" and I speak Mandarin, and I'm white, and there's nothing, I mean, and so when I do the interaction with the Shangri-La hotel chain, not only do I speak Mandarin, but then all the Mandarin characters pop into the chat, and then you can hit a button, please email this to me, or share this role play with me, right? And so, boy, there's no borders to learning. And then we've kept the price really low. So we democratize learning. And that's the most exciting thing I think we've ever done.
I mean,
It's the most exciting thing I've ever done.
I've seen the technology from launch. I was fortunate enough to be,
Yes.
with you guys when you launched, and I've seen it evolve into what it is today, and it's nothing short of incredible. Is this mainly for corporations to use, or is there a consumer version?
So what we did at the start is I've always been a believer in what I call gateway marketing. Gateway marketing to me is who are the fewest amount of people that if you can get through that gate, open up the largest audience. So we started B2B, and the total addressable market is the 225,000 companies in the world that have at least 1,000 employees. So we've signed companies like US Foods, like 3M, like ADP, some big companies. And then we try to go to the second level of their clientele. So by way of example, US Foods has 35,000 employees. They have 300,000 restaurants that they service. So it wasn't just about getting fuel into US Foods. It was about US Foods seeing the value of giving fuel to all the restaurateurs that own these 300,000 restaurants and their employees. So we're kind of generational marketing that way with layers of the ripple effect, right? And doing that. But right now we're about ready to embark into the direct selling industry, which is going to be more of a kind of an affiliate and or a B2C level. We're still a startup. We've got more and more use. We've got more and more minutes being consumed. We've got, all the KPIs and metrics typically going the right way. There might be lulls sometimes, but it's for the whole world and we're not going to stop. I mean, if Alex has his wish, he's not going to stop till there's 1 billion users. And he always says to me, he goes, that's only 12% of the world population. You talk about 75% conversion. Come on, we can do that.
There's nothing wrong with aiming high. Hell, if
Right.
order of that, you're good.
Somebody told me that once. They said you're better off aiming high and missing than aiming low and hitting. And I really took that to heart. If you don't have a big dream, you're just going to be part of somebody else's big dream.
Well, congratulations on the launch. Congratulations on all the proper pivots that you've made, and the technology continues to evolve. And it's just an incredible learning platform. Like you said, I love the term combining Netflix with Peloton.
Right.
To learning and being able to consume it from your little device.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's fun. And there's a lot of joy. My impact was, and I say this just really gratefully, I didn't have anything to prove coming out of 33 years of owning a learning company, but I felt I had everything to offer. And that's where we are right now. We have these subject matter experts like you that come in and can share their wealth of knowledge with the world. There's no telling how big this can get, Stephen.
I totally agree. Huge amount of potential. Well, we wish you the best of luck. If
Thank you.
people want to learn more about Fuel or to get in touch with you directly, what is the best way?
They can hit me on email at todd@myfuel.io, or they can go to myfuel.io and hang out on the website.
Excellent. We'll put that information in the show notes.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for taking the time today.
You're welcome. Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate our friendship.
Yeah, same. And thank you everybody for tuning in to another episode of Built to Finish. If you've enjoyed this episode, please do like and share. It helps the show a lot. And I really appreciate you tuning in. And until next time. That's a wrap for this episode of Built to Finish. Thank you for tuning in. For show notes and more details, head over to podcast.stephenpivnik.com. Special thank you to our sponsor, Accresis, offering tailored, high-impact advisory services that help founders get to their finish line with a strategic acquisition or majority investor recapitalization. Catch you next week.